Discuss about this environment variables today. So the environment variables in three ways we can declare and assign the values, like plain key values, like the name and the value you assign. Suppose here environment variable we declare as app color, and then pink is the color name. Okay, so the environment option here, that environment keyword you have to just use in your config file, in your configurations file, like whenever you're writing the Kubernetes YAML file, right? So you have to mention in this environment sections. I'll just explain further on this and how you can assign these values in your configurations file. Similarly, we have another options like config map, that is called configurations map, where you can just um, store your values in a different file and assign that value to, and call that name, the variable name, in the different files in the configuration file. Okay, and similarly for any sensitive or any password sensitive, like database credentials, or any credentials or data or records you feel sensitive should be hidden, you can use secrets to hide those data. Okay, so let's see details how config map and secrets will be used. So if you see the config maps are used to pass configuration data in the form of key value pairs in the Kubernetes. So when a pod is created, it injects the config map into the pod so that the key pair values will be available as environment variables. Okay, so what will happen when we create the config map? The data will be stored in the config map itself. So when we create a pod, it will automatically inject the data whatever is being created as part of the config map. Okay, it will be injected to the pod. So we can assign the values, we can declare, or we can use the variables whatever is created under config map inside the pod configurations file. I'll show you in details when we'll do the lab class. Okay, so how we'll create the config map? It's very simple. We have to simply just use, let me just log into the system. So it is running already. So if I do here, I think last class I had already created the config map, right? So let me just show you this one, how it was created. Okay, so in the YAML file we have written the API version v1, and the kind is config map C uppercase and M uppercase. In the metadata sections we have written that the name of the config map and the data. So what are the data you want to keep it. Here we have just given two variables. Okay, we have declared and assigned declared two variables, like app underscore name and app underscore environment, like and the value assigned is my app and date. Okay, so how we'll create it? I think in the last class we have already created. So let's see whether it is still there or not. So what is the command to check? It's very simple. I think once you do practice, you'll remember all these commands. Okay, if you don't do practice, it will not be remembered, and you have to all the time look for the videos or look for your documentations. Okay, so just do little practice so that you will remember all the commands all the time. Okay, so you can simply do kubectl get config map. Okay, as it is in default namespace, so we don't have to specify any name namespace here to view this. Okay, so one second. Unable to connect to the server, no route is hosted. Okay, let me see. Okay, maybe this mini queue is not running. Maybe the Kubernetes server is stopped. It's not running. Let me start it. Yeah. So let's see the status. So okay, everything is stopped. So the master
Stopped.
control plane. Okay. Host is stopped. Kubernetes is stopped. API server stopped. Everything stopped. So let me start it first. Mini queue. Start. Okay, so it's now started, and you can see here kubectl is now configured with minikube. So if you do now kubectl get, let me clear out this session. If you can do kubectl get config map. Okay, so our config map was already created as part of our last class. Okay, so we can describe this to see what was there created, what was the data given. Okay, kubectl describe and so we have to give the name of the object. So remember, we have to give, because describe command, describe options will not find out what kind of object you are going to describe. So describe, we have to just give config map and the config map name. Okay. So here we can see here data and plain text file also. We can view the data here. Okay, dev, app name and dev, and all these things are there. So the config map is created. Now let's move on to how we can hide the data, the sensitive data, using the secrets in Kubernetes. Okay, so what is that? Let's go ahead. So secrets in Kubernetes are used to store sensitive information like password in an encrypted formats. Okay, so we can just go and check more details about Kubernetes secrets. Okay, you can just go for kubernetes.io, go to the documentations, and there you can find it out. All this, and always I would suggest you guys to go and follow this kubernetes.io if you are going to do mastery in Kubernetes and some good hands-on experience, and or are going to get a good career in Kubernetes. Just follow their official websites and their blogs, okay, and their community partners and everything are there. You can find it out more details. Every time they're changing and adding something new, okay, in the Kubernetes. So fine. So let's go to the documentations, and there we'll find it out. Let's search for secrets. That's why I always tell you, just focus on one tool and get mastery on that. Whether you are good in Ansible, just get mastery in Ansible. So you'll get lots of opportunity and lots of things in the Ansible itself. If you are going to get mastery on Kubernetes, just focus on Kubernetes. Don't go for any other tools. Just go for Kubernetes, Docker and Kubernetes. That is actually uh, in the current market. Okay, in the current market, Kubernetes is highly demand, and they're also paying good package for that. Okay, so let's go for secrets. Okay, so what is a secret? A secret is an object that contains a small amount of sensitive data, such as a password, a token, or a key. Such information might otherwise be put in a pod specification or in a container image using the secret. So when you create a secret, what will happen? Like the config map or the environment variable, which will be injected automatically when we create the pod. Similarly, the secrets also will be automatically injected to the pod. What it says, because secrets can be created independently of the pods that use them, there is less risk of the secret being exposed during the workflow of creating, viewing, and editing pods in Kubernetes. Okay, so Kubernetes and applications that run in your cluster can also take additional precautions with secrets, such as avoiding writing secret data to non-volatile storage. Secrets are similar to ConfigMap but are specifically intended to hold confidential data. So whatever we wrote in ConfigMap, similar way we'll write in secrets also. But the difference is it is giving you in the plain text format. You can view these data and values. But in case of secret, it will be encrypted. You cannot view the informations or the password or any sensitive informations here. Okay. So you can create how options are given here. See how we can create the secrets. The API version is v1, kind is secret. Okay, the metadata, you can just give the metadata sections. So let's go ahead and create a secret. Okay, and if you see here, it's very simple things is given here. The secret, same thing, API version v1, and let's go ahead and create a secret. Okay, what I'm going to do, I'm just replicating this config map and creating a secret. Suppose the same thing, I have to just change some little difference here. Okay. Config map. Something I just gave a name. Okay, let's put name. Oh, sorry. So it was disconnected already. Secret config map. So I'm going to use a secrets dot YAML. Okay, let's modify the file because I just saved some time to do that, because same time I have to write it. So let's just change this one. And what will be the kind? So you can find the kind here, like it will be secret is uppercase. Okay, secret. Now you can give the name of the secret in the metadata sections. Like I can give secrets, secret data, something like that. You can, or confidential data, or whatever the name. It's name up to your project requirement. Okay, and in the data sections. Okay, so what we have to do here, you can see here in the data sections, normally keeps the username and passwords, right? So let's do it here as per our thing. Suppose I'm going to store some DB host and DB user and some kind of DB password and all. Okay, so let's do that, or I'll simply keep it username and password. So username, simple username I just gave, and okay, so then password. So here you have to give this in the form of hash format. Okay, so encrypted data will be kept it here. Let me just show you how you can encrypt it. Suppose I'm going to use base 64 algorithm to encrypt my data. Okay, so what is the command for base 64? It's very simple to use that one. Okay, so I'll just use, suppose username is Ranjit. Okay, so if I do echo, it will print in Ranjit. Then I'm just using base 64 to encrypt it. See, if I do here base 64, what it does, it just gives me, see, it gives me an encrypted format. In the encrypted format, the data is saying as encrypted. So nobody can read what is this for. Okay, and if you want to decrypt this, it's simple things you have to do. to decrypt it. If someone wants, it can decrypt. So -d option. Okay. So if you do -d base 64 algorithm I'm using here. So if you use -d, it gives me the name, and it just decrypt this string and gives me the original output here. Okay. So now it's up to you, because this algorithm is available in the market. Anyone can find. If you have used base 64, if I find this password, I can easily decrypt it. Okay. Normally in the organization they use their own algorithm, so that nobody can decrypt. Nobody can decrypt the encrypted format data, whatever you have encrypted. Okay, using your own algorithm. So always in your companies, you always choose to decrypt or encrypt any records by using your own algorithm, or the algorithm which would be very difficult to decrypt it. Okay, fine. For our example, this base 64 algorithm is okay to show you the demo. Now I'll just give.
So Ranjit,
Yeah, yeah.
one question actually. So if in a interview they're asking you which encrypted format you are using, we should not tell base 64, no?
No. You should not tell base 64. So you can
Ah,
tell
yeah,
our
correct.
own algorithm we are using to encrypt this format. Okay?
Own algorithm. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah. Okay, please carry on.
Or also you can search in Google or to find which algorithms, best algorithms for encrypting your data and all. Okay, so you can find it out also. But mostly the companies, organizations, they use their own algorithm to modify their algorithms and create the encrypted format of data. Okay. Yeah. But also some a few things, also few companies they use base 64 also, and there are other algorithm available in the market. They also using that one. Sometimes to decrypt also it is required a password to decrypt. Here in base 64, you can still say base 64 we are using. Again base 64, as it is just I'm used this one. There are options available for base 64 to provide password to your encrypted data also. Means if you want to decrypt
Yeah,
it,
yeah,
it
gotcha.
will ask me to provide the password to decrypt the data. It's additional level of security. Okay, so that also you can tell.
Fine.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So now I'm just going to use it to show you how it works like this. So vi secrets. So in place of username, I'll just give here. Let's use the same as the password. Okay, let's save it. And how to create. So we created the secrets YAML file, the configurations file. Okay, now what I have to, use the kubectl command to create the secrets. Okay, in the Kubernetes system. In the Kubernetes system, we have to just create the secrets. Okay, now what is the command? We can use kubectl create, sorry, create hyphen f and the file name, or you can just give create hyphen f file name. Now our secret data is created. So secret data is the name of the secrets we had given in the YAML file, in the configuration file. Okay, so let's do that and check what was the data here. So we can see that. Let's see while describing what it displays. Okay, so we can use kubectl describe secret, then secret data. Okay, secret data, the name of the secrets. See what it says in the data section, it is hiding the data. It says passwords, but nothing is there, only 7 bytes. Username also gives 7 bytes. No data are here displayed. But whatever is available in this YAML files, and we have created the secret. Okay, so we can use kubectl get secrets or secrets. Okay, so you can find here the secret data type is opaque. Okay, and so when we create pod, and we use the username and password, it will be automatically injected to the pod. Okay. So when we'll do the lab class and do the small project, that time I'll show you how the data are being injected to the pod while we create it. Okay. Now let's move on and see what are the other things in the Kubernetes, what are the other objects. Now you understood what is this config map and the secrets. Okay. And it is very useful also. You have to most of the times, all the times you have to use in your project while you are working in the Kubernetes. Okay. The same time, you have to be always remember, and you'll get interview questions also on config map and secrets. Okay. If you are going to go interview for Kubernetes, for specifically for Kubernetes. Okay. Now, what is this labels? Let's discuss about the labels. In the beginning of the classes, I was just discussing about the annotation and the labels, selector, and all, right? So this is what the labels used for. Let's discuss. So labels are the properties attached to each item. Labels can be used to select objects and to find collections of objects that satisfy certain conditions. Okay, so let's elaborate this what where you can use the labels. Sometimes what happen, in the microservices we'll be using different pods, on each pod will be having different components of the applications. So if you think about an application, a project, okay, what this project contains, it will have multiple options, multiple components will be there, right? The UI part, the database part, the business logic, and whatever the business logic will be there, that will be different pod or different parts will be there, right? So if we consider about, let's consider about the UI part, UI will be in a different pod, and our database will be in a different pod. So that time, so label will be used to identify which pod will be used against what. Okay, and sometimes we'll give the labels to label some nodes, and with these pods will be go to this particular node, or this pod will be no referenced for another pod, which will be given the labels to that. Okay, now if you see this definition file, and here we have created a pod, and these labels we have to give the pod level. Okay, so the pod level means when you create a pod object, that time we have to specify the labels, we have to give a labels to a pod, labels to a pod. So here you can see the labels I've given, and the labels should go under metadata section. Labels should go under metadata section. In the metadata sections, we have what we have given app. Suppose the labels we have created to app and function. So app I have given suppose app one, and function I have given suppose front end. Okay. So here, so here in the specifications, okay, the pod, that is the continuous specification, that we have given about the labels. We have given the label. So how we can use that labels in the another pod, okay, so that it will be identified. Okay, so to use that, we have to use that selector to select that particular label. So what is the selector? Selector is a field selector, filter the pods based on the labels. So whatever the labels we have given it here, so selector filters the pods based on the labels. Okay. If you want to use, find out the pods which are given the labels, so you can just use hyphen hyphen selector app1 equal to app1. Okay, so it will be useful when you have given, suppose you are working on multiple applications, and in your project suppose you have multiple front end applications in your term, in your team, or in your particular unit, LOB, you have multiple front-end application, multiple database applications, multiple finance application, HR applications, different categories or different LOB applications will be there. So, and everything you have suppose deployed into Kubernetes, and to identify this Kubernetes object, right, the pods whatever is running, and it will be difficult, right? More than 100 pods, more than 200 pods will be running. To find it, what are the pods that belongs to this front end or belongs to the HR applications, If you want to get it and list it out, better to provide labels while creating the pod. Suppose the label is given here. Suppose our function is, I can say HR row HR. Okay, function is HR. So while in selecting, in selected sections, if you want to find the pods which are HR related applications running, so you can just give the filter options like hyphen selector function equal to HR. So what it will do, it will list out the pods which are related to the HR. Similarly, for any finance related app or any front end or back end applications, if you want to, you can find it out. Okay. Now, see selector where again we have used it here. If you see this configurations file here, here we have given the replica sets. Here we have created a replica set. If you see the kind, we have created a replica set over here. And this replica set, what it says, the labels, okay, the labels, if you see here, I've given like app one again front end. In the specifications, we have given a selector options here. Selector, okay, you just to connect the replica set to the pod. So whatever the labels we have given to the replica set, we want this replica set to be connect to the pod, and in the pod label we have created selector. In the selector we have to use the options called match labels. Match labels. And what are the labels we are going to match? I have given app equal to app1. App equal to app1. Instead app, you can use also function. Function colon, you can give front end. But if you give front end, there might be some other pod or other replica set which function also be front end. Okay, but better to give the app name. So here it is given app1, and in the template sections it's given as the pod label. Okay, that is a container. That container contains, right? So here in the template sections, while declaring the pods, in the pod label also we have created a label. We have created labels here. Same things app1 front end. Here we can, you can see here we have two times we have given the labels. One is the replica set label, the object label. The other one is the pod label. Because see, we created a replica set. We create a replica set, and that replica set will have a label. But that replica set will be contains three pods. Okay, it will create three pods, and the three identical pods. Okay, it will create three identical pods, and those three pods will have a different labels. Okay, that also have pod labels into that. Okay, so we'll use this use cases and labs in our project. One complete project will be I'll be created for you. So there everything will be specified, and I'll show you how these are interrelated to each other. Okay, so now we are going into the selector. Let's move into in the selectors also. There are different ways of field selectors, how we can do the field selections. Okay, so field selectors let you select Kubernetes resources based on the value of one or more resource fields. Suppose metadata.name is my service metadata namespace default pending. This kubectl command selects all pods for which the value of the status.fetch field is running. Suppose if you have given a field selector, this field selector is totally different than this selector. Here, while you are using this kubectl, okay, and that time if you want to see the status page of a pod, whether it is running or pending or terminated or whatever, it will display. Okay, so how you will use this field selector? While using the command line, you can use, suppose okay, let's use this one. Let me copy this, and I'll just use. Okay, so what it says, kubectl get pods and hyphen field selector status.phase equal to running. What is no resources found in default namespace? That means nothing is running. Okay, now what I'm going to do, let's create a pod and see whether we can find it out using this field selector or not. Okay, so what happened, it is stopped. Let me connect another session. Okay. So fine. So okay, so what we see here, let's do that. Okay, so we have the secrets created here. So we have also a deployment. Okay, let's see the what this deployment contains. Okay, what this deployment contains. It has one simple Nginx deployment and has a replica of 3. Okay, so let's create this deployment. Okay, so what is the command to create this deployment? We can use the kubectl create -f. Okay,
Deployment. Yeah.
so our deployment is created. Okay, so now if we see here, kubectl get all. Okay, we have everything is running. Now let's use the selector field selector. I can use that. What you say here? What is that? Let's see what are the pods are running. Okay, if you want to do kubectl get pods.
Course.
Okay, hyphen if I selector. Okay, status dot fetch equal to running. Okay, so see it gives the the pods what are actually running. So here in the simple we have actually have only 3 pods and all those 3 pods are running. Okay, if there are multiple in your company, right, in your project you will be working, there will be multiple pods will be running. Most few pods will be in pending status, few pods will be stopped status, few pod terminated status, right? And few things have some issues, it will be in the stop status. You want to find the find the pods which are stopped or which are in a pending status. You can find it out using this field selector. Okay, now we'll see about the annotations. So initially we are talking about these annotations in the first class itself. So what these annotations being
Yeah.
used for? So we can use this Kubernetes annotations to attach arbitrary non-identifying metadata to objects. Clients such as tools and library can retrieve this metadata. Okay, so annotations are not used to identify and select objects. The metadata in an annotation can be small or large, structured or unstructured, and can include characters not permitted by labels. So we saw here by using the labels and selectors, we can identify the different kind of pods, and we can use that pod to another pod to use it by selecting the using the match labels. Okay, but here in the annotations, okay, whenever you're going to create, we are just additional informations or additional details we are giving to the pod or giving to the object, so that we can identify further by giving the annotations in the key value pair, right? Suppose if you want to see here, the annotations is given as key 1 value key 2. Suppose you can see like environment, like prod, and department, this department, and project ID. You can provide annotations to find it out in a different ways. Okay, so that annotations will be useful. If you just describe a pod, you'll find lots of annotations will be there. Okay, let's see what are those. Suppose if I want to describe this pod, let's say here, describe pod. simple things you have to use: kubectl describe object name and the object. So here you can see annotations will be there. Okay. Yeah. So here annotations anyway, no annotations was given, so it gives here none. Okay, fine. So you'll find in this annotation sections all these informations will be available. Okay. Now, very important things we are going to learn, that is actually called this rolling updates, rollbacks in deployment, and this is very useful, guys, and you'll get definitely questions on this. They may ask in a different ways, they ask different questions in different ways, so you have to correlate the things. Okay, so what exactly this rolling updates and rollbacks in deployment? So what is this rolling updates and rollbacks in deployments? This will be used in the production, guys, productions environment. This will be used in the production environment. Okay, so when we first create a deployment, yeah, any questions?
No, please go
Yeah.
ahead.
So, okay. So when we first create a deployment, it triggers a rollout. A new rollout creates a new deployment revision. Okay. So any deployment happens, we know always that any new deployment happens, new release happens, it exactly create a division, like new versions of deployment will happen. Okay. So here in Kubernetes, any new rollout will create a new deployment revision. Okay, so we'll see here what is the different options are there, different versions like. Okay, and so let's see here what is this recreated and rolling updates.